All right, guys, you're welcome back to my channel. This is Colonial Relic once again, and in this video I want us to discuss something very important, which is the African school system. Now, the African school system or colonial education was never designed for you to succeed, and it was also never designed to educate citizens, but rather it was designed to produce colonial subjects in order to keep the administration going. It's just something like a workforce for the administration. So these guys were like, okay, since we have many companies, we have oil companies, we have steel companies and all that. This is actually what we are going to do. We are going to educate you, these black Africans, okay? And of which is not actually free of charge. Of course, you are still going to pay. And then after educating you, we are going to tender you a certificate depending on how well you performed when we were educating you. And after that, we are then going to employ and retain you, and we are going to be paying you salary every single month. And this is how the system works. Now, when it comes to the aspect of the salary, we are also not going to, we are going to pay you an amount which is going to be not so big and also not so small, at least enough to keep you at the middle of nowhere, so that you are not going to feel like, okay, I'm being cheated, or you are not going to feel like I'm not paid enough. Okay, so you are just going to be okay. You are not going to be thinking of owning your own things or becoming a CEO, but you are just going to be okay. So this is how the system works, just like a syndrome in the black Africans head. And that is why most times it marvels me how Africans have already prioritized this kind of education. If you are to think of, if you are to go back to history, when our forefathers were still here in Africa, the system of education then never taught us to work for anybody. I don't know if you can recall, because our forefathers were very, very hardworking as of then. So it was more like encouraging us to become CEOs, owners of our own business. You are going to imagine yourself owning hectares and acres of land where you have cultivated so many crops, where you own so many livestock, and then you are going to be very rich, very, very rich. But since the coming of this white man education, it has already taught us on how to, you know perform well in our studies, in our academics, and after that, get to work for somebody. And then it also prioritized rote learning, obedience, and basic literacy. Now, what do we mean by rote learning? Rote learning is simply learning in a loop. We are always in a loop, and it is going to be passed from generation to generation to generation. And then obedience, that's it. In our present day schools, if you go to our African schools, obedience is very, very important. Whatever the teacher tells you, that's what you have to do. Wherever they tell you to stop, that is where you're going to stop. And then literacy. Yes, literacy. You just have to learn how to read and write, and you have to learn the foreign man's language. Now, all these things, they are going to prioritize it over critical thinking or indigenous innovation. In our African schools, whenever we see our teacher teaching, and the teacher will be like, you just have to perform well in your studies so that you're going to end up working for a big oil company. And then if you are to stand up then to question that teacher, you know and then tell the teacher that maybe you might like to own your own business. Like you might like to own the company yourself and not to work for them. Certainly everybody is going to laugh. The teacher is going to laugh, the students are going to laugh. They will be like, what's wrong? Are you well? Are you okay? You just have to study this and make sure you are going to work there and they are going to pay you a good amount of money. So the system in Africa is really messed up. It's really messed up. Okay, we are actually in a loop. Okay, we are taught European history and languages at the expense of our own. This creates a mismatch, and this is actually true. I don't see any reason why an African student, an African child, should be flogged in a classroom for speaking his or her own mother language. Why are we Africans always like this? Why are we going to prioritize another man's way of life and culture over our own? Like, I don't even know what to say actually. I don't even know what to say because I'm totally confused. If you check most of our African people right now, we are going to notice that most of us have even lost our culture. Most of us cannot write in our languages anymore, but we are busy prioritizing this other people's tribe, culture, way of life, way of dressing, religion, and all that. If you go to China right now and enter a classroom, you are going to see students learning new skills and innovations. You are going to see where students can make things like robots, where students learn coding, AI and all that. But if you enter that of the African classroom, you are going to see where they are going to be teaching you only theories, and then teaching you things that can only help you to work for somebody. But you guys are not going into it practically. And this is one of the major factors that is killing the African mind and African creativity. You learn, they give you a certificate, and when they give you a certificate, that certificate will determine where you are going to work. Whereas in the Western world, in the white man's world, if you happen to go to work somewhere, they are not going to, mostly they don't ask for your certificate, but rather what they are going to ask is, what can you actually do? What is your value? What can you produce? Why should we employ you right here? What is your productivity? But rather in Africa, they are going to ask for your certificate. Where is your certificate? Let us see your certificate. And most times the certificate, what they might see there, whether first class or second class, most times you might not have even gotten it yourself. It might be that maybe through connection they had to write that you graduated as the best student, of which you're not even the best. Africans, we can do better than this. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Make sure you give this video a like. See you in my next video, and stay blessed.